I think that just like cashing in on any value that Daniel Jones has, like that's what I thought was like I would never accept a trade where I'm getting Daniel Jones, period.
I took a lease out on your heart. I took a lease out on your heart. Can I at least have fun? Can I at least have fun? Can I at least have fun?
Welcome back, everybody. We are Rough Draft Research. You are the audience, and together we are on a quest for dynasty domination. How's it going over there, Daniel?
Oh man, could not be better. I'm just doing great, man. Just hanging out on a Wednesday,
Mm,
getting pumped about some of these matchups coming up this week. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Same thing. Can't complain. It's a little bit earlier on Wednesday for me than it is you, but you know, hanging out, excited for football on Sunday. Can't
Bring
complain.
it.
So for the audience, we are switching it up now. We're midway through the season. Enough of this wrapping up stuff. We're gonna start trying to get a little more predictive and help you guys out and push you over the edge for that fantasy championship that we're all striving for. So today, got a couple new segments coming up for you, and we're gonna start with kind of a tier breakdown slash what I'm going to call rookies to rely on. So guys that are rookies in the NFL right now, I'm going to tier break them and determine whether or not you should plan on using them for the rest of the year, or if you kind of stash them away on your bench and wait till next year. Um, Anything you want to add before we go?
No, man, I think we'll roll with it.
All right. Well, cool. So we're going to start in the quarterback room. There are only four names we're going to talk about. Should be pretty quick. First one in his own tier is Will Levis. He's in TBD, and I only threw him in here because Mike Vrabel said that if Ryan Tannehill sits this week, that Levis is likely to get the start. So, just kind of want to see how that goes. In the preseason, he was 9 of 14 for 85 yards and a pick. Sat out the rest of the preseason with a thigh injury. So you never know with him, but it'll be kind of interesting to see him get involved a little bit. So the next tier I have also a guy all on his own. In fact, all four of these guys are in their own tier. But see you next year. Positive vibes. It's going to be Anthony Richardson. Unfortunately, got hurt, season-ending shoulder injury yesterday, or shoulder surgery yesterday. But he was averaging 18.4 points before we lost him for the year per game. And if you take out the week that he only got four, like the week he got hurt, it was 23 points per game fantasy wise. So he was crushing it. So hopefully the surgery was the right call for his health long term. But we're just kind of looking forward to seeing him next year. So moving on to tiers of guys that are actually going to impact your fantasy team this year. So I have a tier here. It's called Finish Strong, but nothing to write home about. So these are guys that I do think are going to improve throughout the year and kind of maybe boost their numbers up a little bit, but it's not going to be consistent enough for you to really rely on them fantasy wise. So the first name is Bryce Young, currently the QB 30. I'm projecting him to finish as the QB between 19 and 24. So, I think he'll get a little bit better. Not anything crazy this year. I just don't see a lot of juice to this Panthers team. So I don't really see that happening. But I do think Bryce has been getting better slowly. And he does have, or sorry, I do think he's getting better slowly. But the unfortunate part is that the easy part of his schedule is already gone. So weeks 11 to 16, the Panthers have to play Dallas, Tennessee, Tampa Bay, New Orleans, and Green Bay, all teams that are really putting a cap on QB points in fantasy. So it could get a little dicey for Bryce, but I do think he's going to start stringing these performances together a little bit. I just think he'll kind of improve just that enough. I mean, he's only got one game with multiple touchdowns thrown. So I think if he can just like stack onto that, he'll be all right. But yeah, nothing crazy here. I just think kind of the tail end of startable, I guess, is what I see Bryce Young as. Um, Go ahead.
I don't know. I'm getting excited about Bryce Young, dude. Honestly, I think there's a lot of potential there.
Oh, nice. Well,
I think
hey,
it's
I
going to
mean,
level out.
he could. I do think he's going to get better. And maybe he kind of pushes up higher than where I have him. That'd be exciting. But maybe trying to temper expectations a little.
Yeah. Don't drink the poison like
Hey
I
man,
do.
hey, we need the poison sometimes. Moving on next tier, reliable starter. I've got CJ Stroud in there. He's currently the QB 18. I have him projected to finish as the QB 10 to 15. CJ Stroud's thrown 2 touchdowns in all of his games, but 2 this season. Week 1 against the Ravens, who have been awesome against quarterbacks, and week 5 against Atlanta, he only threw 1. He also has a 9-1 touchdown to interception ratio. I just think he's been electric, and I don't really expect that to change that much. In terms of schedule, I would maybe make sure you have a reliable starter for the playoffs, because weeks 14 to 16 for CJ Stroud are at New York Jets, at Tennessee, and against Cleveland. So even as much as I like Stroud, that's a really tough stretch for a rookie quarterback to go in and get you fantasy points to win your championship. But other than that, I do think he'll get you there because he's got a few pretty easy games leading up to the playoffs. And he's averaging 17.2 points per game right now. So I do see Stroud as a reliable starter. I don't know that he's like a superstar yet. And then I also worry about the playoffs for him. But I'm full sending, and I think you can reliably use him.
Yeah, I mean, we were such Stroud guys. We're trying to tell everyone he's the guy to take this year, after Anthony Richardson, obviously.
For
And
the
it's
upside. Yeah.
right. And I mean, yeah, it feels good to be right about that one.
It does, yeah. He looks good. All right, so moving on to RBs. So first category here is going to be see you next year negative vibes. So these are guys that stash them if you want to stash them, but I'm not getting good vibes out of this. There are 3 guys in this category. And we are going to start real quickly with Sean Tucker. Just 3 straight weeks of 0% snap share after kind of coming in and being okay snap wise, but not really production wise. I think he's droppable. If you have an affection towards him, you might want to keep him, but just bury him on a taxi squad or just on your deep roster. I don't see it really producing much more than that. Same with Zach Evans. You can hang on to him. You never know with Rams running backs. They tend to kind of rotate a lot, especially like, year 2, he might decide to change it. But if they're going to bring a guy off the practice squad and then start him in front of him, and not only start him in front of him, but start another guy in front of him when we were thinking that Zach Evans was going to start last week, it's just not a great sign. So I'm just saying, like, kind of bury him, wait for next year, not projecting him to do much of anything. Third guy in this one, a little more name pop, at least. Tank Bigsby, RB 71 right now. I have him projected to finish RB 60 to 65 ish. I mean, Travis Etienne has 300 more snaps than Tank Bigsby. Like, that's it. Unless Etienne gets hurt, I just don't see Bigsby being that effective. But he does have 2 touchdowns on the year, so I do think he can manage to get out of the like really, really dark dregs, but like not much further than 60, 65. Any notes on these negative guys?
Yeah, I thought that it was kind of crazy that Zach Evans stuff, like Royce Freeman out of nowhere, and then Darrell Henderson just like off the streets
It's starting.
Making him pretty much a non-factor in the entire game.
Yeah.
So I think we heard enough about the whole Zach Evans situation through that. So
yeah, I think so too. I forgot Royce Freeman's name. I was trying to dance around it, but still sound like I knew what I was talking about. But yeah, bringing in Royce Freeman and Darrell Henderson is a huge like red flag to me for Zach Evans, and it should be to everybody. So yeah, I'm kind of just saying next year on him if you want to keep him. Moving on to see you next year, positive vibes. Only one guy in this category. It's Kendre Miller. He's the RB 66 on the year. I got him projected to finish 50, 55, but it's not him. I think he looks good when he's on the field. He doesn't look quite like the guy that I was expecting him to, but we just don't see him that much. I mean, this week, Kamara was back and Jamal Williams was back for the first time. Kamara had 73% in the snap shares. Jamal Williams had 22 and Miller only had 3. So, I mean, I just kind of think that's what we're going to get from Miller this year. I said kind of all year it'd be a slow burn. There's two guys in front of him. I still like him, but yeah, I think you can pretty much stash him unless somebody gets hurt.
Yeah, yeah, man. It's pretty much a done deal, right? Like Kamara's the RB16 on the year with only 3 weeks out of 7 played.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, with
4 weeks out of 7, my bad.
Derek Carr dropping 19 targets a game to him or whatever crazy number we're at now, like it's just, yeah, I don't really see much room for Miller right now anyway.
But he's got a huge ceiling if he can inherit any sort of, majority of that role in a post Kamara situation.
Exactly. And if anybody I think if anybody's like kind of out on him, like scared of him, I think you should buy up those shares if you can. Because I do think he has a lot of potential to just kind of end up in that role. Not saying he'll be Alvin Kamara getting 19 targets, but if he gets 8 targets a game, like that's still awesome, Moving on to the next category, same as the wide receiver one, finish strong, but nothing to write home about. So these are 3 guys who I do like and I do think could kind of provide help for you in injury weeks or bye weeks or whatever. But I just don't think they're going to be consistent enough to be considered startable. So the first guy is Zach Charbonnet, RB66 right now. I have projected to finish 35 to 40. So I do think he's going to get a little bit more work than he is now. He has a chance to play this week. So that's good coming off the injury. But his last 2 healthy weeks, he was only on the field for 24% of the snaps. And Kenneth Walker just looks too good to take out right now. I mean, if they're going to roll with this, I just don't see them really trying to switch it up right now. The Seahawks are 4-2, so that it seems to be working. Zach Charbonnet has been dealing with injuries off and on all season already. So I don't see them wanting to overwork him, but I do see him getting a little bit more work and kind of supplementing Kenneth Walker, but nothing crazy enough to make him real fantasy relevant.
That's a disappointment to my heart.
Yeah, that one sucks. But I do still see a bright future for him, though. So moving on, Roschon Johnson, I also have in this category, RB52. I have him going to finish 30 to 35, so just a little bit ahead of Charbonnet. I just think he might get more consistent work because Donta Foreman came in and looked awesome this week, and which made this projection a little weird. But Khalil Herbert's still out, and so I think Roschon Johnson's going to earn that number 2 role to Donta Foreman, which I do think Chicago should rely on him for now and kind of build these 2 younger guys. But I just see it being a more even split than Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker. So I think Roschon has a little bit more chance, and I do think he's looked good when he's been healthy and in. So
yeah.
Moving on to the next guy. This one's been a surprise. Jaleel McLaughlin, currently the RB30. I have him projected to finish 20 to 25, which is the highest finish of any of these guys so far. He got 7 touches in rotation with Javonte Williams and Samaje Perine. But what I really like about him is his playmaking elusivity. We're going to get into it later. I don't want to jump on top of any of Dan's stats, so I'm not going to list any of that. But you are going to hear his name pop up quite a bit when we get down the road later. But I think he just ends up earning a decent role. Though, maybe not a ton of snaps, but still a decent amount of touches. And again, not consistent enough to really rely on him, but he could sneak a good week for you every now and then.
Man, I love it, dude. Talk about the only good thing happening in Denver.
Yeah, what is going on? Geez.
Nowhere.
All right, so we have a bit of a mystery tier here. It's called Depends on the Old Man in Front of Him. The first guy is Emari Demercado. He's currently the RB52. I'm projecting him 20 to 25, so a big jump there. If James Conner comes back in week 10, then obviously this is going to be not as solid, but we don't know if he is going to come back in week 10. Also, he's older, coming back off an injury. But what we do know is that the Cardinals trusted Demercado enough last week to give him 80% of the snaps at running back. And I think Keontae Ingram's just not a factor anymore. So even when Connor comes back, I think this is the guy that they want to be their number 2. He's averaging 4 yards per carry right now, and Arizona is PFF's second highest graded rushing team. So you throw him in there, like he's being decent, like he's able to do it. So I do think if he gets a run as the starter, you could look to even maybe like getting into the teens, like high teens or something. But if Connor comes back, I still think he'll be a pretty consistent producer for you.
I need to watch this guy play. He's intriguing. The 1 week I picked him up as a super waiver guy, he did nothing, and I just dropped him.
Mm-hmm.
But
I'm sure that happened a lot.
Yeah. But now he's like back. He's like,
Yeah.
I'm back. So
Took him a
crazy.
week. You never know. All right, moving on to the last guy in this category, depending on the old man in front of him, it's Tajay Spears. He's currently the RB36. I also have him around 20 to 25. I think it's another guy, if you can trade for him in Dynasty, you should. He's only had one week where he didn't have at least 50% of the snap share, and his snaps to Henry's is 199 to 182. They are not that far off. It is the changing of the guard slowly happening in Tennessee. If it's not a trade, obviously hurts Spears, but he's been decent even with Derrick Henry in the lineup. 5.5 yards per attempt. I really do think if Henry were to get traded, I think there's a chance that Spears has like top 15 potential. He's just really electric to me. But right now I'm going to keep him in this just because we don't know. If Henry doesn't get traded, then he's probably likely to be in the mid 20s. But still, he looks great. So hold on to him or trade for him if you can.
Yeah, he's got a bright future, man. It's gonna be legit.
I think so. Maybe short,
Yeah.
future with those no ACLs, but it'll be bright while you have him.
Fun.
All right, we're moving on to our next category is reliable starters for running backs. The first one I've got Devon Achane, currently the RB9. I'm projecting him to finish RB 10 to 15. We don't know when exactly he'll be back. It might be back this week. Could be, who knows? I still don't see a 12.1 yards per carry average being sustainable, but there's no reason he won't be productive. I mean, he already has shown breakaway speed. He's able to make a bunch of people miss on a consistent basis. So there's no reason to think he won't. But I just don't think his snaps and his touches line up with his points. And to illustrate that point, he has 101 snaps on the season. He also has 101 fantasy points. So he's averaging a fantasy point per snap, not even per touch, per snap, which just that's not sustainable to me. So I do think he falls kind of out of the top 10, but I do think he stays in the top 15 because that Miami offense just puts up loads of points.
Without a doubt.
So moving on next to Jahmyr Gibbs. We saw the breakout game this week up against the Ravens, even though the Lions weren't doing so hot. He's currently the RB25. I am projecting him to finish 10 to 15 here. He took 87% of the snaps on his return from injury and absolutely exploded. 11 carries, 68 yards, and a touchdown. 9 catches on 10 targets for 58 yards. That's more of the production that we were kind of expecting out of him. David Montgomery is going to come back, though, at some point, and Gibbs is going to be, like, supplemented by that, and I don't think he'll be getting 30 points a week or close to it like he did this week, but I do think we've seen, okay, now this is going to work. This is how it's going to work, and I think we can rely on it going further. And
yeah, man, all these guys are just so exciting, man.
Yeah, this top 3 category could have been superstar potential category, but maybe I whiffed on that. But because the last guy we've got here is Bijan Robinson, RB10 on the year, and that's with sitting out a game. I'm projecting him to finish 5 to 10. I think that's not unreasonable. He's only had 1 game without 4 or more catches. So that's crazy to me. Over 70% of the snap share in 4 of the 6 games. He just needs more touches, and specifically, he needs more red zone touches because Tyler Algier has him beat 23 to 11 in the red zone. And that's just some audacity that I cannot abide by from Arthur Smith. Coincidentally, the Falcons are 22nd in red zone touchdown efficiency. So I'm no math scientist or wizard or anything, but like maybe just put Bijan in more. But other than that, full send.
You get 1 carry a game, Bijan.
1 carry. Honestly, I don't even at that point. Why? Just have him sit the game. Like, why did we give him a carry in the fourth quarter? I didn't understand that.
I think that they get fined pretty heavily if they hold a player out without putting him on a injury report.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, that would make sense. Okay,
Yeah.
well, dumb me. Moving on to wide receivers. All right. So first guy is in his own little category here because I didn't quite know what to do with him. It's Marvin Mims, and his category is boom weeks because that's just kind of who I think he'll be. He's the wide receiver 63 right now. I've got him finishing 50 to 55. It seems like his snaps are disappearing, but they're really not. Like he's still getting around 25 to 35% of the snaps. It's just that his targets have only gone down, or his targets have gone even worse, like only 4 targets in the last 4 weeks. The coaching staff continues to say we need to get him involved, but then they don't, which is the funniest thing that ever happens with coaches to me is they're like, we need to get this guy more involved, as if they're not the ones who make that decision. So it's this weird, interesting thing. But I do think he'll explode. I mean, he's gonna go off for I'm sure he'll catch another touchdown before the year's end. So boom weeks, but not reliable. So
Yeah, this one's a heartbreaker for me, but I won't dwell on it.
I think he's looked good though. They just need to use him more consistently, and not everybody can do that in their rookie year. You know what I mean?
Maybe they'll move on from Jerry Judy, baby, and then
maybe
put him in the starting rotation.
That could help. Next category, another guy all by himself in the twilight zone is Quentin Johnston. Currently the wide receiver 124.
Wow.
I haven't projected to finish 50 to 55. Okay. Part of that is because the jump from 124 to 50 to 55 isn't that insane of a jump because there's not a lot of people in the hundreds. That's like people having 2 or 3 points on the year. But Josh Palmer's already not practicing today, as of today. And QT Quentin Johnston just has to get involved. Like he has to at some point. They're going to run out of bodies. He only had 54% of the snap share this week. He only has 15 targets on the year. And according to True Media, 81 of his routes have either been goes or post routes. Like they're just not using him on anything other than just running down the field. And it's not working. And they're not doing a lot of 3 wide receiver sets. Like I said, he was only in the field for 50% of the snaps, and he was the 3rd wide receiver in terms of snap share. So they have to get him more involved. They just have to. So it's going to get better than this. You honestly, like I bailed on him and traded out of him. You probably shouldn't do that. That's not the time to do that. But like, I do think it will get better. He's going to get more, but he has to, or the Chargers are going to break down. Like they don't have enough bodies at this point for him to not get involved.
Yeah, I agree, man. That's I don't know what's happening. Can we keep the name Q-Tip for him though?
Q-Tip, yeah. I do like that.
He's gonna have to have himself a decent week, man. So we'll just wait for it to happen, I guess.
Yeah, I think he will. I think he'll start to heat up, but it's not been a strong start. But these guys are going to finish strong, but be nothing to home to write about because we're in the next category, and I'm starting with Jonathan Mingo, wide receiver 92 here. I'm projecting 45 to 50. That's a pretty big jump. It's one of my bigger jumps of the guys in this category. In fact, I'm about to do it again in the next guy. So woohoo, let's go. But Mingo continues to eat up snaps. 277 snaps, 3rd on the team, and that's with missing a game. I think those snaps will start to translate into targets soon. He's 2nd on the team in targets. It's still like 30 or 40 behind and Adam Thielen. But they like this kid. They want him on the field all the time. And like I said earlier, I think Bryce Young is going to get better. So I think that will coincide with Mingo getting a little better, and he's going to start to stack a couple good games. But again, he's more of a stash and play guy for sure.
I'm waiting for it.
Yeah, it should be fun. And like I'm with you on the Bryce Young thing. I think he'll start to heat up. So I hope it helps out our boy Mingo as well. Next guy also jumping from wide receiver 90. I have him projected 45 to 50. It's Jalen Hyatt. Not a big fan of him coming into the offseason, but 70% of the snap share in back-to-back weeks for Hyatt, 9 targets over those last 2 games as well. And simply, New York just needs a playmaker. They're dying for a playmaker at wide receiver. They're trying people out, and right now Hyatt's answering the call. So I think he can get a few of these games. I don't love any of the Giants wide receivers, so I'm not saying like go hard after him or anything, but I do think he'll have a better stretch going forward.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't know. Waller had that pop game last week, but it's like they're Hyatt's amazing, man. Like don't waste that shit. Don't waste it.
They could be starting to heat him up. Also moving on, Jaden Reed coming up. He's a wide receiver 51 right now. I have him projected to finish 30 to 35. His snaps have gone down since Watson came back, only about 50 ever since with the 2 games that Watson's been back. The Packers have only run 349 plays to their opponent's 400. So now you're not even getting a dominant snap share. The Packers aren't even running that many plays comparatively to the other teams. With Luke Musgrave demanding the share that he's demanding, the running game demanding theirs, Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs. Right now, I don't believe in this offense enough for them to support multiple guys consistently. And I think Reed is going to suffer from that. But I do think he will have decent games. I mean, he's got 3 touchdowns on the year already. Like, he's a good player, but this offense right now is just a little off. So I don't buy into starting any of these guys consistently.
Yeah, that's a safe call.
So moving on, another inconsistent offense, but a pretty good player, Michael Wilson, wide receiver 47. Again, I have him kind of right where Jaden Reed will finish, 30 to 35. He's second on the team in snaps, third on the team in target, and he's made the most of his targets by catching 21 of 29 of them. I don't think Arizona's been consistent enough for Wilson to provide you much this year, but I do think whoever Arizona's next QB is might have found their number 2 receiver already.
Yeah, without a doubt, man. He's another guy that's going to come up later on. Surprisingly.
Oh, nice. All right. Well, I'm going to start speeding it up a little bit more. I just realized how many more. There's so many rookie wide receivers, man. We got to start cooking through this.
Plus.
So, but I do want to spend a little bit more time on this guy right here. Demario Douglas hasn't been spoken about a lot on this podcast. He's currently the wide receiver 78. I actually have projected to finish 25 to 30. His snapshot share jumped up 62 to 62% this week, and he answered with 6 targets, 4 receptions, 54 yards. Nothing crazy, but I do think he's earned the slot role in this offense. And not that I believe in this offense a lot, it is a spot that we've seen succeed in, like the New England style offense. I mean, I know it's not the same, but whatever. I just think I do like him. I like the way he fits there. They need more playmakers with the ball. So I just think that he's going to push here. Again, not consistent enough, but he could sneak in some pretty good games, I think.
That's an exciting name to watch.
Yeah, should be. This next guy, I do think will be a little more consistent, but not enough to consider him a reliable starter. So we're still in this category. It's Tank Dell, wide receiver 49. I have him projected 20 to 25. Again, don't think he'll be consistent enough to be reliable. Houston has a lot of weapons, and Stroud has already shown that he's able to spread the ball around and not really get stuck on one guy every week. But the Texans do play some teams that are allowing quite a bit of points to wide receivers. They play Arizona, they play Jacksonville, and they play Denver coming up. So I do think Tank Dell is going to pop and have some good weeks. I think it'll be like we saw already, where it's Tank Dell this week, Robert Woods this week, Dalton Schultz this week, Nico Collins now. So I just don't see him being consistent enough to like really start every week, but I do think he'll be good enough to get into the top 20. Moving on to reliable starters, and I have this guy right on the edge. I was considering having him in the other one, but Rashee Rice, man, I just like him. He's the wide receiver 39. I have him projected 20 to 25 as well. Has been the biggest bright spot at wide receiver to the Chiefs for me. Not Tony, Sky Moore, or Mecole. It's Rashee Rice. He's second on the team in targets to just Travis Kelce. And I just think Andy Reid's too good to not recognize this consistency and start feeding him the ball. He's got 122.9 passer rating when targeted. He's not going to take the top off the defense. His ADOT, like we'll get into a little later, possibly isn't that crazy. But I do, similarly to the Cardinals, I think the Chiefs have found a wide receiver too that they're going to be able to rely on to kind of take pressure off Kelce, ironically. Like I've been talking about a lot on this podcast. They need another guy kind of over the middle. We thought it'd be Juju. He was okay. I think Rashee Rice might fill that role pretty well.
Hope so, man.
Should be fun.
Figure it out. Yeah, I'll stop jumping in randomly here.
Oh, no. Jump in whenever you want. I try to pause for you, but then I don't know when we want to. But anyway, moving on next. I got Jackson Smith-Njigba here as a reliable starter coming forward. Right now, he's the wide receiver 68. I have him projected to finish 18 to 23, somewhere in that range. It was concerning that when DK went down, Jake Bobo came out and outsnapped JSN. That was weird to me. That you would think that's not how that would go down. But I do think JSN is going to start heating up. Week 6 and 7 were his highest rated games by PFF. He ended up catching his first touchdown in week 7. I think that transition is coming for him. He's still been right around them for targets. It may be a little slower, but I'm buying into it.
Yeah, this one feels like it's not necessarily needed to be successful for the Seahawks,
That's fair.
So I don't know if they're just nursing it and letting it like be a kind of a sleeper heat up. But I mean, a lot of times, plenty of these guys they have to step up, or fail. And like the way Seattle's built, it's like they've got so many options, and with Kenneth Walker just killing it, it's like
that's true.
Don't have to force it.
Yeah, this is one of my bigger jumps too, and maybe it's believing in the player a little bit more. Maybe it's because I just traded for him. Who knows? But
that's it.
But I do like him, and I do think they're going to start feeding him more. Not enough to be like crazy good for you, but I do think pretty decent season finish here for Jackson Smith-Njigba. Moving on, though, I do have Josh Downs as a reliable starter, current wide receiver 26. I have him finishing 15 to 20. He has 22 more targets than the next wide receiver next to him. Obviously, he's second on the team to Michael Pittman, but he's just outside the top 3 in yards after the catch for rookie wide receivers with 187. He just keeps getting open, keeps moving the chains for the Colts, just like he did at North Carolina. And I just think a pass-happy Gardner Minshew is going to feed him. Like, he's open, and why not? So, full send with Josh Downs. Similarly to that, I've got Zay Flowers right here as the last reliable guy. Current wide receiver 22. I haven't projected, again, just like Josh Downs, 15 to 20. Probably more on the 15 to side for Zay Flowers. He leads the Ravens in red zone opportunities, but only has 1 touchdown. He has 32 more targets than the next closest Ravens wide receiver, and he has 14 more targets than Mark Andrews. I just think we're going to start seeing that turn into more points. Lamar, to me, is just balling out this year. He looks great, and I just think Zay Flowers is going to benefit from that.
Yeah, man, I'd say 15 is conservative.
I almost had him in our next category, but I felt like there needed to be a separation here because of how well the 2 other guys have been playing. So right here, I've got Puka Nacua. He's currently wide receiver 4 in the bracket of superstar potential. I do have him finishing wide receiver 10 to 15, which might sound like heresy to say that he's going to fall out of the top 10. I don't think it'll be that far out of the top 10. The Rams have some tough matchups and a bye week coming up. That's playing into it. But you can't rule out on a guy that has 70 targets already at this point in the season. Like, he's going to keep performing. I just think it might still tend to fall down closer to that wide receiver 2 range Or not. He'll be a wide receiver 1 at the end of the year, but I mean, like, in terms of him getting 16, 17 points instead of 30 every week. And so I do just see him trickling down. And then you got like guys like Justin Jefferson are going to come back eventually and maybe take that spot a little. But I mean, hey, if you have Puka, you're stoked, and you should be. So, and my top rated rookie wide receiver going into it is Jordan Addison. He's currently the wide receiver 13. I've got him finishing 10 to 15 as well, possibly even a little higher. But while Jefferson's gone, Addison's been the wide receiver 1. Like, we saw it on Monday night. He just completely changed that game for the Vikings. I mean, he took a pick, or what should have been a pick, and he took it in and made it into a touchdown. Like, he's a baller, man. I whiffed on that one, putting Zay and Quentin Johnson ahead of him at the time. And I don't think even when Jefferson comes back, it's going to be enough to slow down Addison. He's got a 70.7 PFF grade already. He's just a playmaker, man, if he's open or not. And so I actually have him above Puka in my rookie like final. I mean, I think they'll be real close. Like, if he's 10, then Puka might be 12 or 11, you know. But I do have Addison favored personally.
Yeah, no one's gonna argue with that.
It'd be hard to after a 30-point win.
Yeah, dude's hot.
I guess Puka's already had like 2 or 3 30-point weeks, but
That's
semantics.
not the same.
Not the same.
Didn't have a 2-touchdown game.
That's true. All right, let's wrap up on the tight ends and then get into some deep dive with Dan. So finish strong, nothing to write home about. I've got Luke Musgrave here, and it's echoing the reasons I said with Jaden Reed. Just, I don't trust the offense, and I don't think anyone is reliable in this offense right now. But all that being said, Luke Musgrave is 3rd on the team in targets. That's with a game missed and a game where he only got 1 target that he got hurt. So he should be 2nd, really, if not 1st. In healthy games, he's averaging almost 5.5 targets, and I think he's open a lot. Jordan Love has missed him for 2 touchdowns for sure, one of them being like a 60-yarder, and I just think they're scheming ways to get him the ball, and they're throwing him a lot. I just don't think he's going to be consistent enough. So, like, right now, he's the tight end 23. I have him projected to finish 15 to 20, which is respectable, but we all know for like tight ends, that's not that great. I just don't think the consistency is going to be there enough for Musgrave to kind of over push that boundary. Moving on to the reliable starters, though, and this might be my biggest call of this whole segment. Michael Mayer is the tight end 36 right now. I'm projected to finish 10 to 15 for tight ends. His snap share has increased the past 2 weeks, 80% and 70%, respectively. It coincides with 10 targets over those 2 weeks, which he previously had 5 combined over the last few weeks. And I just like what I've seen from him, man. He looks like a ball player. He looks really good when he has the ball in his hands. And I just think the production is going to start coming for Michael Mayer. And I think it's easier for these tight ends to push. And I think he's going to get some touchdowns stacked. And I think he's going to have a pretty good end to his rookie year. That's another guy I think you should buy if you get the opportunity to. Joining him in the reliable starters, I've got Dalton Kincaid, and I probably would have had him lower than Mayer, but with the injury to Dawson Knox, the current tight end 20, I've got projected to finish 7 to 12, man. And I know it's not this simple, but if you combine Kincaid and Knox's stats, you get 55 targets for 40 receptions, 295 yards, and a touchdown. Or another way to phrase that would be the tight end 7. I know it's not that easy, but sometimes it is. And I think we're just going to see the production start coming Kincaid's way. He was already the more efficient receiver out of the 2 this season. And now I just think they're going to start overloading him the ball with Knox not being there. So I think Kincaid has a decent chance to finish pretty well this season. And last but not least, wrapping up rookies to rely on is a final by himself category. And that category is Sammy Ballgame, because Sam Laporta is by himself. Current tight end 4, projecting him to finish 1 to 3. He's got 49 targets, which is second on the team on a very high-powered offense. He has 18 targets over the last 2 weeks. He's going to keep crushing it. I don't see that stopping. So full send. You know about Sammy Laporta if you have him, so you don't need me to tell you how good he is.
Yeah, buddy, Sammy Laporta, dude. Who would have told you? Who would have known? Who would have thought? If you now catching up with us, you got to get in the off season, man. We go year round, and I mean, we get down on these guys. There's some of these guys that we tried to tell you about. Yeah, particularly Sam Laporta and definitely Jordan Addison. I'm just saying, Blitnikoff winner. Got to give him some respect.
Yep,
Um,
you did.
oh yeah,
I didn't enough, apparently.
hell yeah. All right, well,
I had him like 4th. It's not like I said he was going to suck, but yeah.
never mind. We don't have to dredge that up. I'm just saying, get it while it's fresh before your friends figure it out. That's what we're here for. But what we're going to do tonight is get into a little bit of the statistics, man. And this is just kind of a journey of exploration. We know who's doing well, at this point in the year, but we always look back, and the way we project people and the way we value people when football isn't actually happening is by looking at some of these particular stats and trying to forecast who will be successful or who's due to have a better output in the future based on some of their performance in these categories. So we're just going to take a little bit of a walk through the statistics, particularly with the running backs. We're going to look into some missed tackles forced, a little bit of yards after contact per attempt, some breakaway yard percentages, just yards per attempt, throwing that in there, elusive rating. And I'm looking at targets, kind of rushing touchdowns, and just general attempt rankings, the kind of the not so sneaky stats, just the ones that will equal big fantasy production. So yeah, with all that, I'm just gonna dive right into it. We all know who the top 3 guys are this year. I think Christian McCaffrey, you got Raheem Mostert, and you got Travis Etienne. And like, ironically, these guys have 3 or more top 5 rankings in some of these categories. So that's kind of what you're looking for, is guys that are putting it all together. But some of these other sleepers have a little bit of stacks on the category performance as well. So let's just get into it and see how everyone's really doing. I'm going to start it off with missed tackles forced. And right now, the leading running backs in the league are producing 32 missed tackles forced. And that is Travis Etienne, and he is tied with Kenneth Walker. So Walker, who's the RB7 on the year, not doing as hot as Travis Etienne. A lot of that can be attributed to him having 1 fewer touchdown. I don't know, a lot fewer targets. So these are just kind of things I'm tracking. But behind them, in the number 3 spot, is Christian McCaffrey with 29. And then rounding out the top 5, you got a tie between Raheem Mostert with 26. And believe it or not, Zach Moss has 26 missed tackles forced. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that I'm looking for when I'm looking through these statistics. Like, we know Zach Moss is doing well. He's had that opportunity, enough injuries and enough whatever's in Indy. But I wouldn't have guessed that he was actually producing that kind of a performance. So I was pretty impressed to see that. But yeah, man, do you want to talk about some rookies that are doing well in the missed tackles forced category?
Yeah. So the way we're going to do this, since we are a Dynasty podcast, he's going to cover kind of just the main guys up at the top of the top 5, and I'm going to hit you with the top 3 rookies of all these, just so we can see kind of how they stack up. So for missed tackles forced, Number one was Bijan Robinson. I don't think that's that surprising with 21 forced missed tackles. We've got number two is Devon A. Chan with 15. So pretty significant difference, but Bijan also, I would imagine, has quite a bit more touches as well. But this one was sneaky. Number three is Jaleel McLaughlin with 12 forced missed tackles, who has far less touches than these other guys. So that's what I was talking about. You're about to hear his name a few times in this like kind of elusivity ranking stuff. He's a sneaky player, man.
Yeah, he's very sneaky. Just the touch count on that. Bijan's 81, Achan is 38, and then McLaughlin is surprising 34
Ooh,
with this
okay.
limited role. So, um, I mean, it's funny that you bring up some of these guys because as we get into yards after contact per attempt, um, yeah, your guy Devon Achane is he's number one in the league. So.
Yeah.
I mean, they're that guys. I'm ruining the rookie side of this one as I go through. But number two, this is what we're looking for. Pierre Strong, man, with 4.33. So I mean, it's kind of a new name on the scene, but the
Ooh.
opportunity is there. So keep an eye out for that. Yeah, Devon was doing 7.42, so that's like
Stupid.
that's not a real number.
That doesn't
Let's
make
just
sense.
ignore that. And then number three on the year, man, is freaking Jalil
Yeah.
McLaughlin, dude,
Yeah.
with the 4.26. So that's nuts. And then rounding out your top five, you got Brees Hall. Yeah, so he's still
Makes
alive.
sense.
He's still doing things. He's got 4.21. And then another rookie, Tajay Spears,
Yes, sir.
406. So I don't know if I hit all three of your top three.
You did
guys.
indeed. Yeah. So the top three guys were in the top five for the rookies. So as you said, yards per contact, per yards after contact per attempt, excuse me. Devon Achane, 7.42. Jaleel McLaughlin, number two, 4.26. And Tajay Spears rounding out the top three for rookies, 4.06. So guys that are not going down on the first hit. Love to see it.
Yeah, and they're not too far ahead of our league leading running back. McCaffrey's right at 401. So just for a full comparison, it's a good thing to be successful in that category if you want to be a top performing RB. But another category that will get you there without a doubt is going to be the breakaway yards percentage. So this is a percentage of yards that's on carries of 15 or more yards. And yeah, PFF, you done did it. You've made all these beautiful categories for us to discuss. We
Thank you,
appreciate
PFF.
it.
Yeah,
you're kicking all the ass.
Also, you're welcome for our money that we.
For real. Yeah, they're not just.
It feels like an even trade.
I like it. I mean, it's fun for me, and I'm sure it's profitable for them. So, getting into how the hell these numbers aren't real, right? 65.9% of his yards are on the breakaway runs for Devon Achane. Wow, great. Jerome Ford, though, is number three. Wow, skipping around at 51.5. And then number two is Brees Hall with almost 61% of his yards on this break run. So he's doing his best young Saquon impression, where he's just getting all those yards on the breakaway runs. And then rounding out your top five, how does this keep happening? You have Raheem Mozart and then freaking Jaleel McLaughlin again.
Here he is.
Right at 48%. Come, what are we doing here? This is ridiculous. I love it.
Yeah. No, man, he's sneaky good, man. So I actually had a typo. So I forgot about Devon Achane. So he is number one with that. You said 65%. So he was the number one rookie, followed by Jaleel McLaughlin, 48.3%. And then number three, Tajay Spears at 33 or basically 34% of his being on breakaways. So pretty good. Pretty good.
Beautiful, really. All right, I'm going to kick it down to just top three. We're rapid fire on these next ones. So
all right,
the yards per attempt, man, number one is 12.1 with Devon Achane. Like, great, good for you, dude. Number two is Jaleel McLaughlin with 6.9.
Yep.
So, I mean, here we are, like huge Javante heads, just being put to shame by this nobody. I mean, out of nowhere, a no name. I don't know. He's not a nobody. Obviously, he's hitting on three of these categories. And then Brees Hall, have some respect. He is still in the building,
Mm.
6.4 yards per carry.
Woof.
So,
That's insane.
got to do it.
Brees Hall's incredible, man. Yeah. So you already hit the top two. I've been saying it. Devon Achan's 12.1, not sustainable, but it is number one in the league and number one for rookies right now. So credit where credit is due. Number two, again, yeah, Jaleel McLaughlin, 6.9. Rounding it out though, Tajay Spears sneaking into number three with 5.5. So man, these
You
guys
gotta
are
watch.
popping.
Yeah, they are. These three guys. All right, next up we got the elusivity, man. Some of these dudes is elusive. Honestly, a number I've never seen in my life is a 300. A 300. Devin Achan. Cool, man. Whatever. Like, you do you. Of course, your teammate should obviously be in the top three. So we'll go straight to him with Raheem Mozart at 144 at third. And then freaking Tajay Spears is 159 in second place. So
Yeah.
judging by the look on your face, is that right, Raheem? Raheem 144?
That is right. It's just that 159 would go first, right? So Tajay's second,
I
and
went
then Raheem.
1-3-2.
Yeah.
I'm 1-2.
That's the only thing, because I was worried that I got my number wrong for
Oh,
Tajay.
no.
Is what, when you said he was second at 144, I went, oh shit. Am I
Yeah,
wrong?
that was no. Yeah, teammate was number three with
Gotcha.
Mozart.
Gotcha.
Ooh.
Well, yeah, so you hit it on the head there. The elusivity rating, it's PFF's like internal rating for how elusive guys are. And yeah, like you're saying, 300 is crazy. Devon Achan at 300, Tajay Spears at 159. And you already know that Jaleel McLaughlin's number three at
What?
136. So for rookies, just in case you're wondering, since we're talking about running backs, where Bijan was fourth in yards per attempt and elusivity. So he was right there with these guys, just kind of right behind him. But yeah, man, McLaughlin and Spears and Achan basically dominated all these stats.
I want to throw it out there that Pierre Strong is a triple-digit elusivity rating when compared to pretty much everyone else on this list is less than that. As a comparison, Travis Etienne is at 85. So
Ooh.
to be triple digits, pretty good. But one thing that will make you a fantasy dynamo is to be a pass catcher. And so we're going to get into those numbers real quick. And I will tell you, I do misspeak from time to time, but this is a fact that Alvin Kamara is leading all running backs with 39 targets in only 4 games played this year.
That's insane.
Absolutely crazy. Second is Josh Jacobs with 36. That's insane too. Just for those, yeah, who are watching and paying attention. No, which is kind of me, a little bit. But he's an RB 11. So I keep saying this with Jacobs. Please don't give up on him. He's going to start to become more efficient and start to level up. Just for full reference, he's at 2.9 yards per attempt and right at 2 yards per attempt after contact. So not great, but that could improve. So anyway, you got you may or may not have pulled rookie.
I got
targets. I might have snuck that in there. Got it.
You snuck it in on me, but I got it. We're good. So for the rookies, talking RB targets, number one is Bijan Robinson with 32, which makes a lot of sense. Number two is Jahmyr Gibbs with 27, also makes sense. Might be a little sneaky for you though. Tajay Spears is number 3 with 20 targets. So going off, man.
And yeah, and thank you. I forgot to mention Bijan as the number 3 in the whole league.
So, gotcha. Yeah. So hey, smooth transition.
You got me, man. I got you. I'm going to touch real quick just on rushing touchdowns because this is powerful stuff. Obviously, we got Raheem Mozart has 9. That's number 1. Christian McCaffrey's has 8. Number 2 there, and then number 3 is Travis Etienne with 7.
Hmm.
These are your top 3 running backs. There's a
Yeah,
reason for
makes
this.
sense.
But there's a big old tie at 6 that includes David Montgomery, Kyron Williams, and Kenneth Walker. So, keep an eye on those guys, if they're healthy, because they're still doing big things. Let's see, as far as rookies go.
Yeah, so for the rookies, there's a pretty big disparity. Devon Achan is our leader in touchdowns for rookies with 5, followed by Tank Bigsby with 2, which is just insane. And then there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys all tied for third with 1 touchdown. Them being Jahmyr Gibbs, Tajay Spears, Amari DeMarcado, Roshan Johnson, and Jaleel McLaughlin.
Jaleel, very beautiful. Just to touch on attempts here, real quick. Number 1 in the league is going to be Travis Etienne with 127. Number 2, you got Christian McCaffrey with 125. And number 3, Josh Jacobs, man. He's getting the work at 118. And then the surprising, again, Zach Moss in the top 5 at 114. So
Why
cool.
is Zach Moss?
sometimes it takes a couple of years to get up to speed. He's I don't know. He's
a couple
the
years in a team
Sherman of his
change.
time.
I guess
Yeah.
so. Carry leaders for our rookies. It's gonna sound pretty obvious. Bijan Robinson with 81, Jahmyr Gibbs with 50, and Devon Achan with 38. It would be our
Hell
top
yeah.
3.
Well, I'm going to do something on the fly, and you tell me. But I think we might save pass catchers for next week because this episode's getting a little long in the tooth. Is that all right with you?
I am perfectly okay with that. So today we have done our rookies to rely on. So hopefully I didn't overload you with information, but we also covered our running back stats. Really got to pay attention to yards after contact per attempt. I think that's a huge one that gets a little slept on. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. And next week, as you heard, we will do a little multi-TD madness, double targets, and cover our pass catchers and a few different deep dive stats. So
yeah. So before we let you go this week,
we're doing it. Oh,
couple of matchup predictions.
Gotcha.
To touch on for multi TDs and double-digit target guys.
Well, my bad for jumping over top of you.
You're good, dude. You were setting me up. So yeah, love it. But I wanted to continue my series on the multi TD guys and the double-digit target guys by pivoting towards a more of a prediction based setup. So this week we have 5 matchups of teams that have produced at least 5 double-digit target games versus teams that have allowed at least 5 double-digit target games. So we're looking for like some high-flying performances on 5 of these teams to teams that are allowing them to funnel targets to a single player. So in those matchups, we're looking at Buffalo against the Buccaneers. Yeah, okay. That's a Thursday night game, so that'll be something to look forward to. We have New Orleans versus Indianapolis. Indianapolis is allowing that to happen, so keep an eye out on that. Could be Chris Olave. I don't know. He's going pretty quick on the highway there, but it also could just be a continuation of Alvin Kamara and that target share. So. We got Philadelphia going up against Washington, so look for some Philly receivers to get hyper targeted. And then you've got Arizona versus Baltimore. And Baltimore is kind of a surprising one, but they have given up double-digit target shares to at least 5 teams. And then the last but not least is Cincinnati up against San Francisco. So could be another Jamar Chase type game. And then on the multi-TD side of it, we've got 4 matchups where there are teams that have produced 3 or more multi-TD player games versus teams that have allowed 3 or more multi-TD player games. So that is Green Bay versus Minnesota. I know that's a touchy subject. It's happening. So Green Bay has been producing those multi TDs, and Minnesota's been allowing them. So we'll see how that continues. This one is a one to keep an eye on. Jacksonville versus Pittsburgh. So now it's 3 games in a row that Travis Etienne has had double touchdown games. So, and Pittsburgh's been allowing that to happen. So could be 4 in a row, man. Something to keep an eye out on. Seattle's going up against Cleveland. Cleveland's allowing it to happen. Seattle's doing it. And then finally, we've got the Chargers that are doing it up against the Bears, who are allowing the multi-TD game. So maybe Austin Eckler has a bounce back performance after being a little bit of a dud last week. But yeah, those are the big matchups to keep an eye on. I will bet you that out of these 9, at least 6 of these will meet these criteria and continue to perform.
We gotta track that now for next week and bring it up and see how it does.
I'll track the shit out of it. Bet on
All
it.
right. So it sounds like load up old Kenneth Walker. And
For sure.
So, all right, man. Well, hopefully that'll help you win some fantasy matchups this week. Hopefully our breakdowns help you win your championship at the end of the year, or at least build a dynasty roster you can be proud of. But until then, we've been Rough Draft Research. You've been the audience, and we'll see you next time.
Deuces.
I took a lease out on your heart. I took a lease out on your heart. Can I at least have fun? Can I at least have fun? Can I at least have fun? I took a lease out on your heart. I took a lease out on your heart. Can I at least have fun? Can I at least have fun? Can I at least have fun? Took a lease out on your